public hearing on the proposed landfill gas project agreement between the City of Oldtown and Casella Waste Systems Incorporated. This agreement will be voted on at the June 17, 2007 special council meeting. Open the public hearing. I'd like to have a show of hands on how many people like to discuss this that are Oldtown residents. Okay, so please come forward, state your name and address. Hey, you might as well go first.
Hi, Ed Spencer, Kirkland Road, West Oldtown. I'm not terribly well prepared here tonight, but I can give it a shot, kind of like Ed Spencer a cappella, which you'd rather probably hear this than that. Basically, I think this contract, the subject of the hearing tonight, can be kind of split into two parts. One is whether it's good policy to take the gas from this landfill and heat Maine with it, okay? The other one is whether this is a good contract, okay? And I don't think either one is, but it doesn't mean that you can't say the concept is good, but the contract is lacking, okay? And there's a few things in the contract I think should be changed. By the way, have there been any changes made since the last? There was some discussion, but nothing got changed.
Oh wait, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, there was. And I can't remember exactly what. It got sent back to the seller. It was just those changes that Kathy Lee had talked to you about.
Yeah, why don't I'll comment, and then, if that's important, we'll take it up later. Kind of in reverse order of importance, I think the last clause in it kind of states something like the city has to notify Casella before we have mentioned this at a press conference. And to me, that might seem like a small thing to some people, but to me, that's kind of the municipal version of signing away your freedom of speech rights. In other words, I think if something should happen and city manager, councilors should say, hey, we really need to do something about this soon, and the press should hear about it, then I don't think we should have to wait for, say, Don Mahar to get back from vacation or something. So that's fairly minor. As far as the leachate disposal agreement in there, I don't know. I kind of thought that issue was resolved before, and the part of it that deals with Old Town getting free disposal of sewage sludge, I think it's it's definitely a violation of the spirit of the state mandate, which is all our waste, reduce, reuse, recycle. Now we've got this, composting facility out here, which appears to have been working for quite some time, and to just do away with that and put it in the landfill, even if it is free disposal, which, by the way, doesn't necessarily mean free trucking. I think that's a horrible example for the state of Maine to sit, for the municipality which hosts the state of Maine landfill, to set as we move forward. So that's part of that. Thirdly, this part that deals with the grant process and the compensation from Casella for if Old Town should be awarded the $3 million grant from DOE stimulus funds to put towards the pipeline contract. There's something there. Casella wants to compensate the city 50% of, it sounds like, language to me sounds like they want to give back 50% of their savings that they would have had put out if they had borrowed the money. Okay? Well, it comes to me, that's apples and oranges, because the grant is not a loan. Casella doesn't have to pay back anything. They would get, if $3 million comes to Old Town just says, here, Casella, here's your $3 million, and they're going to give us back 50% of what their savings would have been if that was a $3 million loan. That's, to me, that's the crummiest deal I've heard of. And why don't I kind of try to conclude here? I think it's time for the city to start taking a tougher position in bargaining with Casella, and I don't know, what part of the state is involved, the state planning office is involved with this, or if they're just, completely absentee. But I think really where, Casella's talking about giving us 5% or, of renewable energy credit savings, 8% of this, 5% of that, maybe after you pay for the third-party independent. It's just kind of like us sitting down, and I hate, I bought a Diet Coke today. It cost 95 cents, right? So it's kind of like Casella gets the soda, and we get the deposit on the bottle. And I don't think they can do it without us, especially with this pipeline grant. I mean, we've got them. They can't, they can't apply for this grant themselves. And I've spoken before, I've written a letter to the editor about what I thought about the whole grant application process, and I think that's just a bad precedent to set moving ahead. And if you ever do that again with grant applications, I urge you to take a hands-on approach. And I don't mean to criticize any attorney we've hired during this process, but I don't think this is a good contract. Parts of it. I don't think the host community agreement was a good contract. Parts of it. And I think it's time to adopt a tougher line. I mean, it seems like, in negotiation there should be some give and take. And it seems like with us, it's kind of like we're given, and part of that is just the nature of the beast, which is Casella, I guess. But so I'm probably forgetting some great points I had meant to make tonight. But one last thing, if I could, as far as what I've mostly been talking about here is the contract. As far as the concept, I've got some information. This is from the EPA, and the title of the study is it better to burn or bury waste for clean electricity generation? So in other words, if you have waste, would it be better to incinerate it and create the electricity that way, or bury it and gain the electricity afterwards on that? And if I could pass this to
break the package.
Okay, and if you could distribute that, and I was going to give it to Councilor Lovejoy, I think he has a savvy. I only brought one copy though, so to understand. Some of it's a little thick, but if you kind of read the beginning and the end, then I think it'd be a great help for all of you between now and when we actually vote on this. So once again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ed. Jamie?
I'd like to just briefly address the contract issue since I was part of the committee. And when you talk about give and take, one of the primary concepts that we had as a city in this negotiation was to give nothing. We gave no money, we were not a partner, and it was pretty clear from the beginning and firm holding by the city that we were not going to invest anything in this project. And therefore, what we're able to get out of the project as a non-investor is, one would think, nothing if we're not investing. We have been able to negotiate to get some things out of there because, as you pointed out, there are some things that we can offer them besides money, such as getting on the grant as well. If we were to take a portion of that grant money, that would require us to contribute it to the pipeline, and then we would become a partner with Casella in the pipeline, which is not a direction that we want to go. So the basis of the negotiations has been contribute nothing to the project, and get as much out of it as we can, and I think we accomplished that.
Can I say quickly, nothing except for the attorney's fees?
I'm talking about contributing nothing to Casella and their cost of this.
Oh, okay,
The attorney's fees were to protect us, not to protect Casella.
okay.
Okay, anyone else from the audience?
Chuck Lighthizer from 4th Street in Old Town. Again, I'm kind of looking at this in two different parts, the concept and the actual contract. I'm still trying to determine if the overall concept is a good idea, and gathering a lot of info and trying to gather more. The report that Ed cited and just handed out, if I can understand some of the information in there, some of what I thought was very important. As far as the greenhouse gas emissions go, the waste-to-energy incinerators create 0.4 to 1.5 units of CO2 per megawatt hour of electricity produced. The landfill gas-to-energy, even in the most aggressive scenario, produces 2.3 units per megawatt hour. So it's just saying that the waste-to-energy incinerators are actually producing less carbon dioxide than the landfill gas-to-energy plants do. There's a chart on page 1714 in that report that shows carbon emissions at the landfills are exactly the same, whether they're simply flaring the gas or using it in a landfill gas-to-energy process. So there's no gain there. And those carbon emissions are roughly 7 times that of natural gas or waste-to-energy for production of the same amount of energy. And they're about 3.5 times more than that of oil or coal. To me, that kind of means calling this green energy a bit of a sham. The landfill gas-to-energy plants also produce 50% more sulfur oxide emissions than simple flaring does, and twice as much nitrogen oxide as simply flaring the gas does. That's all in that EPA report. The direct waste-to-energy plants also produce 10 times more energy per unit of waste as the landfill gas-to-energy plants do. Simply saying it makes more sense to burn the waste directly than to try and landfill it and then try and collect the gas afterwards. So that's one of the problems I have with the whole concept. The second report is one that came out in Environmental News, and I can make copies and provide that or provide a link. And that was published December 10th of 2008, Environmental Science and Technology. It's the Environmental News section of that. It was web published in December of 2008. That actually claims that the landfill gas-to-energy is a winner, quote unquote, for existing waste. But they may have perverse outcomes, such as discouraging the diversion of organic waste from landfills and actually increasing the amount of methane being released into the atmosphere, because the capture rates for methane are 40 to 50% of it is captured over the landfill's lifetime. That article also shows the true cost of composting organic waste is $19.60 a ton, again in 2008, while the true cost of using that waste for landfill gas-to-energy is $49.37 a ton. Again, it's a whole lot cheaper just to simply landfill what you can, compost what you can by separating the trash instead of sending everything to the landfill. And I'd heard, but I've not been able to confirm, and I don't know if anybody on the present council knows, I'd heard that the university wanted to put in a compost facility out at the Rogers Farm, and that was denied by the city. Is that true? Does anybody know? I've not been able to confirm.
I remember when that came about, but I think they withdrew it. I don't think it came to the city.
The university withdrew it?
The university withdrew it.
Oh, okay.
I think I was on the university side then.
Thanks.
Through my interview as energy and utility manager.
So on to the actual agreement. My biggest problem, I guess, with that agreement is just that we've heard so many problems from Casella, as have many other communities, so many promises that never actually materialized. Right here in Old Town, we had heard that there was going to be hothouse tomatoes growing on top of the landfill at one point. We were going to have one of the largest glass recycling facilities in New England at the landfill. That hasn't materialized. There was going to be a visible barrier so that you couldn't see it. I don't know how many people have driven out Route 43, but the cedars aren't doing a whole lot to hide the landfill. At one point, the landfill gas to energy plant was going to be right at that site instead of shipping the gas off-site. And they had also signed the host community agreement, the whole deal about the construction demolition debris residues, only for what was being produced for Old Town, and we all kind of know where that went. This agreement also somewhat legitimizes the Maine Green Energy Alliance, Casella subsidiary. And I just wonder if we can invite representatives of other Maine towns that bowed out of that Maine Green Energy Alliance grant to come to the council meeting and tell us why they bowed out. They might have some good information. And also regarding that Maine Green Energy Alliance, I know, Peggy, that you forwarded my questions along to them, but I've still not had an answer as to who would be eligible for that work and whether they could still qualify if they had someone else do the work, or if it's basically siphoning all that work right to them. One of the other problems that's going on right now with the Pine Tree landfill in Hamden, we've heard that the landfill gas to energy plant there was going to be great. But now, even though Pine Tree was designed, filled, and closed as a dry cell landfill, Casella wants to convert it to a wet cell because it's not producing enough gas. We're not really sure how this is going to work, and stability could be an issue. I believe Juniper Ridge is also, at this point, a dry cell landfill, and we've had some stability issues out there already. I guess one of my other problems with signing this agreement at this point, or adopting this agreement at this point in time, is that we just don't know for sure what the city's getting. An example of that would be the agreement cites 5% of the revenues from the sale of landfill gas, but it doesn't say whether that's all the landfill gas or just the methane, and that the 5% is after deducting any fixed price component, such as cleaning and filtering the gas, which can be very costly. Keep in mind that the landfill gas is only about 50% methane, so where the gas is actually cleaned makes a huge difference if that's Casella's cost or someone else's cost. If Casella's cost, that 5% of revenues is probably not going to amount to a whole lot. And has anybody heard the status of the actual grant application? Do we know the results of that yet? Do we know exactly where the pipeline would go? At this point. For all those reasons, I just think accepting the agreement at this time, in my opinion, is very premature at best. Thanks.
Thank you, Chuck. Anybody else in the audience, Old Town resident, that would like to discuss this item? Please come forward, state your name and address.
My name is Mary Dolan. I live on Easy Street. And I also had the same questions that Mr. Spencer and Mr. Lighthizer raised. But getting back to the idea of the sludge, is the one of the provisions that Casella provides free sludge disposal for and Old Town. And I wonder if there's a question of the legality of kind of going contrary to the statutory solid waste hierarchy, because in that hierarchy, composting is above waste to energy, which is above landfill. So it's reduce, reuse, recycle, compost, waste to energy, and then landfill. And it explicitly says at the bottom of the, so this is Maine solid waste management hierarchy. It's the document ends with, within this hierarchy, landfills are the last of the various solid waste management options that should be considered. So, it seems that just this offer of the sludge disposal, which is going to shut down the composting, which had been done previously, seems to violate that statute. And, but then it also makes me wonder what the, and then there's an article here that I'll share with the council that appeared in February 2009 in Environmental Science and Technology, an article entitled, "Is Converting Landfill Gas to Energy the Best Option?" And I'll just read two spots here that I've highlighted, which, distributed to the council. However, landfill gas to energy projects can end up generating more uncontrolled greenhouse gases than composting. That's one of the summary statements they make. And also, EPA officials maintain that composting is still preferred to landfilling. So that's in reference to the sludge, which is one of the items explicitly listed in the agreement. But then it also makes me wonder what is the meaning of the entry 5.1 in that agreement. It says, "This agreement is not intended to regulate the landfill or any expansion thereof." So I was wondering why that was in there, because, that is also, in all these different hearings and in all these, that's one of my primary concerns, that this is leading to expansion. You have to bring more, you have to bring in stuff that's inappropriate according to this Maine solid waste hierarchy. You have to bring in out-of-state stuff, because there was some confusion about what the numbers are and the amount of gas that's generated. So it just seems like another project that's pushing us towards getting more stuff, more out-of-state waste, things like that. So it wasn't clear to me how this item 5.1 related to that. So that's all about, the sludge composting concerns. But I was wondering, it seems that two major expenses that are corollary to this kind of pipeline is that the gas has to be cleaned to be of any use, and that and it was mentioned in that BDN article that came out when this first, I have that here too, about the university using this gas. They concluded with the facilities manager talking about the fact that the university was going to have to retrofit boilers to actually use this gas. So I guess I was just wondering, is there any, I haven't seen the term sheet, and I didn't know whether that was available, the term sheet that's mentioned in this agreement that talks about the terms between Casella and the university. Is that available?
No, that's an agreement between Casella and the university at this point. And so this agreement deals with anybody that's going to be an end user of that gas, whether it's a university or anyone. This is what the city will get as far as...
Yeah, well, I was just wondering whether there's been, that whole issue of what's going to be done to clean this gas to make it even usable, and then who's going to pay for retrofitting. Is that going to be a bond issue that the state issues or something like that, or
I think that's
is there any Old Town obligation because we're entering this agreement?
There's no Old Town obligation on any of that. And the thing on the sludge, on the reduce, reuse, the other layer of hierarchy.
It's a 6-level hierarchy with
Right,
landfill at the bottom.
and that's dealing with municipal solid waste and composting and yard waste, things along that line. This is wastewater sludge. And right now, there's almost 200,000 tons going into that landfill. If I'm recalling my numbers right, it's been a while since I've looked at it. What we're talking about is 2,000 tons, 1,000 from the city and 1,000 from Orono. Right now, it's costing the city about $70,000, $80,000 to compost that sludge, and we get about $9,000 off it for sale of the compost materials. So it's costing the city quite a bit, and it's costing the town of Orono quite a bit to make this compost available to people that want to put it in their gardens. And it's gotten to a point where it's pretty cost prohibitive. If the state wants to provide us funds to offset those costs, probably we change our minds. But right now, it makes sense if we can get rid of it. It saves the users in both communities that expense.
Has there been any, say, like grant applications to do something like that, given, say, like what some of these, what some of the assessments are and the relative, greenness of actually composting compared with, landfill gas to energy. I just cited the EPA studies that seem to indicate that you're much better off composting. So that seemed like a greener solution than, the city applied for this grant for taxpayer money for this pipeline, and under the auspices of it being green energy. So I know I just have a concern about that. So anyway, thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the audience who would like to discuss this item? Old Town citizens, please state your name and address.
Good evening, James Varner. I own a resident at 314 Brunswick Avenue here in Old Town, and I just want to express some general concerns as a citizen and a concerned human being for us and for our children and our children's children. I said 314, that was my old address. It's 521 Brunswick Avenue. It used to be 314 South Brunswick. I just thought of it. But I'm concerned, as I said, about our children and our children's children. And I'm responsible for what occurs in my home. And I look at the community as a part of my community home, so I'm concerned with what happens out there. One of my concerns is I don't feel that the regulations are tight enough on the analyzation of materials coming into the dump. I think that I don't see a good analyzation of that, and by that I mean there should be spot checks, unannounced checks of materials on these trucks at all levels, and there should be an chemical analyzation of those materials to make sure that they aren't harmful. I'm also concerned about leaching, which is rain, snow, any liquid that comes through the soil carries some chemicals down into the ground and maybe into the aquifers and water tables that exist underneath the earth. Some of them are as rivers and some of them as large lakes that can become contaminated. I'm concerned about the gas being sold to the university, because if this were to happen, it would dictate and possibly endless expansion of the existence of the dump to get more gas, and I think it produces an ugly scar on a beautiful community eventually. So those are some of my concerns.
Thank you.